What's up, Internet? Kevin here with TLD, bringing you our review of Asura's Wrath for the Xbox 360 and PS3. Now, more and more games today are trying to really combine the cinematic experience of film and television with the interaction of video games. Some games have done this by experimenting with camera angles and lots of dialogue, like the Uncharted series, others of which have focused on making it more like an all-out movie that allows you to have a little control over the plot or have to do quick-time events, kind of like the Heavy Rain and Indigo Prophecy games. Asura's Wrath does cater more to the latter style of movie-like video gaming. The game takes place over several chapters, which really act like separate episodes of a television series, each one having its own intro credits, a commercial break scene at the halfway point, and even ending credits for every overall part. The structure makes it very easy for the game to become addictive, as each episode is fairly short, and once a player starts, they'll simply wish to finish it outright rather than stop midway through. Visually, the game is very appealing, at least once areas are done texture popping, and the soundtrack overall fits in many moods quite well, and really amps up that feeling of watching an animated TV series. The game could be considered an action-adventure title, as one of the three main forms of gameplay takes the form of a standard, albeit simple action game, giving players the ability to combo attack enemies, dodge roll, and perform extra strong attacks, or even get a temporary power boost from prolonged fighting. These segments occur semi-often and pose the most game-like situations for players, though it's a fairly shallow system when compared to titles focused on this style of combat, like Devil May Cry or God of War. Alongside these action scenes, players will also encounter two other forms of gameplay: shooting segments and cinematic quicktime events. Shooting segments occur the least, and are some of the most straightforward and simplest sections, requiring players to keep shooting everything on screen until enough damage is dealt to enemies. These parts can be very over the top, and really seem to mess with the scale of power available to the main character, as sometimes you're capable of blowing up whole fleets of ships by just shooting wave after wave of energy blast, yet have to fight your way through just normal enemies most of the time. Last but not least, the game's largest component is its cinematic quicktime events. Fight scenes that play out by having players hit buttons when instructed to. This comes up time and time again, and is how many of the game's ridiculous boss battles are handled, pitting Asura up against opponents several times his size, or dealing with extraordinary circumstances like getting stabbed by a sword long enough to go through the earth. While pretty, they don't offer that much actual gameplay outside of making you hit a button every now and then, and watch how things explode. This is where I actually felt the game went wrong in a couple of different respects. There have been many games before that have tried this kind of cinematic style of gameplay where you focus on kind of watching what happens, but then you're given a degree of choice over what you do. You can affect the storyline. It still allows for some degree of player interaction. Asura's Wrath really doesn't have that. Really, all you ever have control over is whether Asura punches an enemy, or punches an enemy really hard. The story has you on some extremely linear rails, which sometimes can make you question whether or not it counts as a game. Sure, it has a lot of game-like components, and there are the few action-adventure scenes, but in the end, once you've actually finished the game, all you feel like you've really done is watched a short anime that required you to push buttons every now and then to make the story move forward. Add the linearity of the game to how short it is, totaling roughly 7 hours, and you can get an experience that is overall very limited. The only reason one would have to go beyond a single playthrough is if you wanted to get a perfect score on every level, which would afford you a number of unlockable extras like concept art or special boost modes in combat, but some levels are very easy to S-rank on your first try, and going beyond that would require you to just watch the same cutscenes over and over again while you try to make sure you don't mess up once. The game is very shiny, and while the plot isn't entirely original or hard to figure out, it's still very entertaining and enough to hold your interest, though that also isn't hard considering how long it is. It's a fun experience while you have it, but considering how long it is and how much replayability it has to offer, it's really hard to justify making it a full $60 purchase right now, rather than simply renting it or waiting for a price drop. That's our review of Asura's Wrath for the Xbox 360 and PS3. As always, guys, thanks for watching our videos. Make sure to check out our latest two if you haven't yet, and if you want to be extra awesome, make sure to hit the like button, and I'll see you guys next time.